10,000 years ago, under the open sky of the Kalahari, a hunter-gatherer lies down on packed earth as the day's heat drains out of the ground. No mattress, no blanket beyond a thin hide. Within minutes, the body shuts down into deep, uninterrupted sleep. There is no alarm to fight in the morning. The body wakes on its own, somewhere near first light, rested. Now picture a bedroom in any modern city. Tonight, blackout curtains, a mattress that cost more than a used car, a white noise machine humming beside a bottle of melatonin gummies. And still, eyes open in the dark, doing arithmetic nobody asked for. An entire industry exists to solve a problem ancient humans apparently never had. Something does not add up.
The assumption is almost reflexive. Pre-agricultural humans, the story goes, slept like the dead. 9-10 hours a night, lulled by firelight and an unbroken connection to nature's rhythm, free of the noise, debt, and blue light that wreck modern rest. It is a comforting image. Simpler lives, simpler nights. It is also mostly wrong. For decades, sleep scientists assumed humanity's ancestors were the gold standard against which modern insomnia should be measured, a baseline of long, deep, effortless sleep that industrial life had corrupted. Entire wellness industries were built on that assumption, selling the promise of returning the body to its natural pattern. Nobody had actually measured it. Not until researchers strapped sleep trackers onto the wrists of 3 of the last hunter-gatherer societies left on Earth. But here's what actually happened. In 2015, sleep researcher Jerome Siegel at UCLA, working with anthropologists studying the Hadza of Tanzania, the San of Namibia, and the Tsimane of Bolivia, published the results in the journal Current Biology. The number was not 9 or 10 hours. It was 6.5 to 7.5, almost identical to the average industrialized adult. So the romantic image was backwards. These groups were not sleeping longer. What they were not doing was lying awake. Insomnia as a complaint barely existed. Sleep onset tracked one variable with eerie precision: the drop in ambient temperature after sunset. Not darkness, not exhaustion, temperature. The body fell asleep as the world cooled and woke again as it warmed, like a thermostat with a pulse. This makes a strange kind of sense. A body that sleeps in one unbroken block, fully and completely, performs better the next day tracking game or digging tubers than a body that wakes in fragments. Evolution had no reason to fight that design, because for most of human history, there was nothing worth waking up for. No grain store to check on. No livestock pen to listen for, no neighbor's debt to worry about settling. A hunter-gatherer band owned almost nothing that could be stolen in the night, because almost nothing was stored beyond what could be eaten within a few days. Nothing to guard meant nothing competing with rest. That equation held for roughly 200,000 years. Then, in a handful of river valleys, something changed the terms entirely. Zoom out across the whole species, and the same story repeats on every continent where farming took root: the Fertile Crescent, the Yellow River Basin, Mesoamerica, independently, centuries apart, with the same result. Grain could be stored. Stored grain was wealth, and wealth, for the first time in human history, was sitting in a pile that someone else might want. In 2011, Amanda Mummert and colleagues at Emory University reviewed skeletal remains from agricultural transitions worldwide, published in the journal Economics and Human Biology. Average height dropped. Signs of disease and nutritional stress rose. Farming did not just add a granary beside the hut. It added a guard duty nobody asked for, a hierarchy of who eats first, and a body now tasked with watching its own resources instead of simply resting. For centuries afterward, agricultural societies across pre-industrial Europe did not even sleep in one block. Historian Roger Ekirch at Virginia Tech, combing through diaries, court depositions, and medical texts for a 2005 study, found repeated references to a first sleep and a second sleep, a few hours of rest,
an hour or two awake at night for prayer or conversation, then a second stretch until dawn. It was simply how farming households slept. Humans eventually eliminated almost every threat that fragmented that sleep. Locks replaced loose grain piles. Banks replaced barns. And the very invention meant to finally grant control over the night, artificial light, was the thing that erased the first sleep and second sleep entirely, compressing the night into one forced, unbroken shift, lit first by gas, then by electricity. Picture the Kalahari again, and the city bedroom beside it. The difference was never the biology. The same nervous system, the same thermostat-like sleep switch sits inside both bodies. What changed was everything around it. The temperature held artificially constant by a thermostat instead of the night air, the wealth that now exists in a phone instead of a granary, and a sun that no longer sets indoors because a screen keeps glowing long after dark outside. Every night, modern humans run ancestral hardware through a completely different environment, then wonder why the output looks like a malfunction. It is running the same drop and wake pattern written 200,000 years ago. It is simply running inside a building that no longer cools, dims, or quiets down the way the original program expects it to. There is a stranger postscript. In 2013, Kenneth Wright and colleagues at the University of Colorado Boulder took a group of campers off the electrical grid entirely for 1 week, exposed only to sunlight, firelight, and darkness, then published the results in Current Biology. Within days, melatonin release shifted nearly 2 hours earlier, falling almost exactly in line with sunset. The ancient pattern did not need to be relearned. It switched back on by itself, unprompted. The hardware was never lost. It is sitting inside every modern body right now. The same way an entire ancestral system for reading threat and reward in food was never lost either, which happens to be the next story this channel is built to tell. So the bedroom is not really a bedroom. It is a negotiation between a body still calibrated for the Kalahari and a world built first by the harvest, then by the light bulb. Agriculture did not just feed the species, it introduced humans to property, to hierarchy, to debt, and quietly handed the body its first real reason in 200,000 years to lie awake at night. The thermostat is still there, underneath all of it, waiting for conditions it has not seen in 10,000 years. Tonight, somewhere, it will switch on for the rare few who leave a window open and a phone in another room. For everyone else, the negotiation continues.